So check this out. The Biden administration's FHA rolled out a new program last month to help FHA borrowers avoid going into foreclosure. This helps borrowers who are struggling to keep up with their mortgage, get caught up on payments, and actually help them reduce any future payments as well. The program, which was rolled out last month, is called the Payment Supplement, and it starts on May 1st of this year. So this program allows borrowers to tap into up to 30% of their equity of their home and basically use it as an interest-only loan in order to get caught up on any delinquent payments and also to reduce their payments going forward for up to 3 years. And this interest-only loan would be paid back at the time that you sell your house. Now, the interesting thing about this is it is a program that is in addition to other COVID-era programs that were basically created to help borrowers not go into foreclosure. And those other programs have been extended into 2025, and borrowers can still tap into those programs as well. But the problem with those old programs is they would basically require you to change your interest rate. And as you can imagine, a lot of these people that are trying to tap into these programs have a very low interest rate. And as you know, it makes no sense to increase your interest rate because if you're already upside down on your mortgage and you can't make the payments at the lower interest rate, it would make no sense to do a loan modification and increase your interest rate. So this new program was built in order to allow borrowers to avoid an increase in the interest rate. So they essentially tap into the home equity that you may already have, turn that into an interest-free loan, and allow you to use that to get caught up on any delinquent payments and allow you to reduce any future payments up to 25% for 3 years. And then whenever you go to sell your home, you actually would pay back that debt at that time. So this new program doesn't require you to adjust your rate, but what this tells you is people are still struggling. And these programs are most likely why we haven't seen an uptick in foreclosures over the last couple years. However, as of January of this year, foreclosures are up 10% from the previous month, and they're up 5% from the previous year. So it seems to me that the administration is trying to keep a lid on foreclosures as much as possible. I mean, why do you keep seeing headlines for, credit card debt being at an all-time high or car loan delinquencies being at an all-time high? And what do you think comes next after you can't make payments on those two things? You think it might be your mortgage? So yes, people are still struggling. And in my opinion, and based on some of the things I'm going to show you in this video, there is a housing bubble. I mean, just take a look at this chart and drop in the comments down below on whether you think that this is sustainable. I mean, just based on this chart alone. I mean, this is the median home price going back past the housing bubble. See, this is the '08 housing bubble, where we are here, and this is inflation. Notice how historically we have trended with inflation, a slow and steady increase year over year, nothing getting out of whack. But then we hit '08, and there's a housing bubble. And look how much more housing is compared to inflation. And that housing bubble was bad. And we've since recovered, right? At least that's what everyone thought. But wait, look where we are now. Look how much more it is inflated compared to the '08 crash. Does that seem normal to you? I mean, it's just crazy to think that prices are more inflated now than they were in the financial crisis. And that was, pretty terrible. I think there was like 2 million foreclosures a year after that bubble popped. So to go along with the news about the FHA rolling out that program for its borrowers and to keep people from going into foreclosure, there was also some data that came out about new home listings, and it looks as if there is a big uptick. There's more listings now than there had been in the last 3 years. So listings rose 13% year over year. However, active listings are flat from a year ago, and this marked the first time in months that there's actually not a decline in homes for sale. So basically, there is a steady amount of supply in the market right now. So while it's true we have a supply problem, basically there's just not enough homes for sale, not enough inventory for a healthy market. At the same time, mortgage applications are down 9% from a year ago. So there's not enough housing supply, but yet there's also just no demand. Buyers are just not there because interest rates have ticked up again over 7%. And they are basically priced out of the market. No matter what anybody says, homes are basically just unaffordable for the average American. You know, I get comments sometimes on these videos that I make on here or social media, basically people saying that everything is fine, I don't know what I'm talking about, there's no housing bubble, the economy is just fine, and basically none of this is facts. I mean, yeah, this is my opinion, but it is backed by facts. You know, I'm showing you charts and I'm showing you data in order for you to see that this isn't just some rando on a video telling you some nonsense. And while this may just seem like a nothing burger to most people, and you don't agree that there is some sort of housing bubble like I do, I would basically just refer anybody back to this chart. The everything is peachy, prices are going to continue to rise trajectory is just going to have to give at some point. And the only way that I think I would actually be wrong is if the reason why we never had a crash is because wages actually increased. You know, there's such a disparity between the cost of a home and how much the average American makes. So one of two things has to happen. The price of that home has to come down or the wages have to go up. So I would actually be sort of wrong if the wages increased, but I think that's the least likely scenario. It seems more likely that A, sellers will realize that they can't get the asking price that they're looking for, and they will just slowly start to decrease their listing prices. Or B, we are actually already in a recession or entering a recession, and the financial hardship that everyone is in will actually cause the demand for real estate, the demand for housing to decline, which would in turn cause prices to decline. Or C, the Fed actually decides to lower interest rates, which would actually prop up the economy for a little bit longer and make homes slightly more affordable. However, if you follow the Fed monetary policy and how it lines up with the economy, you would know that historically, when the Fed decreases rates, that typically means that something catastrophic happened or we are actually already in a recession. Because why else would they lower rates? Which, if they do that, it would bring us all the way back to B, which means we're already in a recession and people will not be able to afford housing and the demand for housing would go down, and then people would subsequently lower their prices. So lastly, D, people's wages actually increase, which allows them to afford the average home in America. So you tell me what you think is most likely, because I think that's basically the order of how I think things will play out. Unless the Fed just decides to start cutting rates, which to me would signal a recession. If you don't know anything about the Fed and how its interest rates tie into the economy, I suggest you do some research on it. They historically cut interest rates when something catastrophic happens or we're basically entering a recession. I mean, you can go back and look at all the historical recessions prior to this, and you can see that to be the case. Which means that prices will basically just start to come down because of economic pressures. You know, there'll be less demand because we'll be in a recession. And then in turn, psychologically, sellers will realize that they have to sell their homes for a significantly reduced price, and everything just kind of snowballs after that. And I think that's going to happen this year. I think we're going to enter a recession and it will further stunt demand beyond what is already going on in the economy right now. And the Fed will lower rates, but that's because we will actually be in a recession. So while many people, including economists, can't agree on whether we are in a bubble, in a recession, going into a recession.
Next year, according to a recent survey by the National Association for Business Economics, more than 3/4 of economists say the chances of a recession in 2024 are 50% or less.
Some facts are just undeniable. The gap between how much everyone watching out there makes every 2 weeks or every month in income and the cost of a home in America is so large that homeownership is almost unattainable for a large portion of America. It's just simply unsustainable. The historical average for home prices has typically been 3 to 3.5 times the average household income. And now it's nearly 6x. So the average home in America is 6 times the average household income. How can prices rise if the math just doesn't math? You can't afford the average home if you've got to buy groceries, if you have to buy diapers for your baby, if you've got to buy gas, if you've got to make a car payment, a huge car payment, because you bought one of those, those cars during the pandemic. You just can't afford all those things and a mortgage. Anyways, if you enjoyed watching this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that notification button and subscribe. And truly, thank you for watching this video. As always, till next time.